A powerful CEO steps into his luxury office lobby, only to be stopped by a tearful little girl asking one chilling question: "Could you pretend to be my daddy? Just for one day?" He almost walks away. But what happens next unravels a story so heartbreaking, so unexpected it will change his life forever, and yours. The glass doors slid open with a soft hiss, letting in a rush of cold air and the distant wail of sirens. Nathan Campbell didn't break stride as he crossed the marble lobby of Campbell Holdings, his polished shoes echoing like gunshots on the floor. Midnight meetings. Worthless. He checked his Rolex. 11:48 p.m. The security guard gave a nod. Nathan didn't return it. Then something made him stop. A figure. Small. Still. At the far end of the lobby, half-shadowed beneath a tall steel column, stood a girl no older than 6. Soaking wet, dressed in a rain-spotted hoodie and sneakers with holes in them, she clutched something tightly to her chest, a soggy piece of paper, maybe a drawing. Her eyes were enormous, haunted, and locked on him. Nathan hesitated, just for a second. "Are you Mr. Campbell?" she asked, her voice soft but unwavering. He blinked. Who brought you here?" "No one," she said. "I waited. I saw your picture in the window." She pointed to a framed executive portrait inside the lobby's corporate display. "I knew it was you." Security began to approach. Nathan raised a hand. "It's fine." The girl stepped forward. She looked up, water dripping from the ends of her ponytail. "Could you pretend to be my daddy just for one day?" Silence swallowed the space between them. Nathan stared at her, his well-practiced detachment beginning to fracture. He glanced toward the front desk, then back at the child. "Where's your real father?" "I don't have one," she said as if the answer was obvious. "It's my mommy. She's in the hospital. She said her last wish was to see me with my daddy, just once." Nathan exhaled, a long, sharp breath. "Kid, I think you've got the wrong—" "I know you're not really my dad," she interrupted, "but you're all I could find. You looked safe and rich. Mommy said daddies should look like they can keep you safe." The sentence hit harder than expected. Nathan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. She held up the paper in her hand. It was a drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall in a suit with slicked back hair, one small with a pink bow. "This is us," she said. Something in his chest shifted. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Lily," she said. "My mum's name is Grace, room 312, St. Mercy's Hospital." She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just stood there, soaked and trembling but composed, like she knew if she asked with any more emotion, the answer would be no. Nathan looked at the rain slicing across the glass behind her, looked at his phone, then looked at Lily again. "I'll take you," he said, almost surprised by the words. The drive to St. Mercy's was quiet. Nathan's Aston Martin, usually a capsule of curated jazz and solitude, felt like a foreign vehicle with Lily in the passenger seat. She didn't ask about the car, didn't ask about his job, just stared ahead. "She's really sick," she said at one point. "She said I shouldn't be scared if she goes away soon, but I am." Nathan didn't respond. They pulled into the hospital garage just after midnight. Lily led him with confidence, like she'd walked these halls too many times for someone her age. They passed nurses who didn't blink at the sight of her, which somehow made it worse. Room 312. Lily hesitated outside the door. "Remember," she said, "just one day." Nathan nodded. Inside, the lights were low. The woman in the bed looked younger than he expected. Late 30s, maybe. Pale, eyes closed. Her hair, though thin, was neatly braided. "Mommy," Lily whispered, stepping forward. "I found him." Grace stirred. Slowly. Her eyes opened, confused at first, then alert. Nathan saw it happen. The realization flashed behind her gaze. She understood instantly. Her daughter had brought a stranger. But Grace smiled. "Hi," she said, her voice cracked and fragile. "You must be Daddy." Nathan froze. Lily beamed. "He came, Mommy, just like you said. I told you someone would come." Grace looked at Nathan. She didn't expose him, didn't question, just offered him a hand. Her fingers were ice. "Thank you," she mouthed. Nathan sat down beside the bed, unsure why. Lily curled onto the chair beside him, still holding the drawing. For the next hour, he watched. Mother and daughter spoke in whispers. Lily described the day, the rain, how she waited. Grace listened with every ounce of fading strength she had. Eventually, Grace turned to him. "What's your name?" she asked. "Nathan," he replied. "Thank you, Nathan." He cleared his throat. "I don't know why I'm here." Grace gave a soft laugh. "You're here because she needed to believe. And you needed something too. You just don't know what yet." That night, Nathan stayed longer than he planned. He watched Grace drift off, watched Lily rest her head on her mother's arm. When he stood to leave, Lily stirred. "Will you come back tomorrow?" He hesitated. "Just for breakfast," she said. "Mommy's awake more in the morning." He nodded. "Okay." And then, before he could reach the door, Grace spoke again, eyes half closed. "She chose you," she whispered. "That matters." Nathan left the hospital with her words echoing through him, not because he understood them, but because for the first time in years he felt them. The hum of the IV machine was the only sound in room 312. Nathan stood awkwardly beside the hospital bed, unsure what to do with his hands. Grace's eyes, though sunken with exhaustion, were sharp, intelligent. She studied him, not with suspicion but with something softer, sadder. Lily had fallen asleep in the chair, her head nestled on her mother's leg, the worn drawing still crumpled in her hand. "You're not her father," Grace said, her voice quiet but certain. Nathan didn't flinch. "No. And yet, you're here." He nodded slowly. She asked. Grace's lips curled into a faint smile. "She has a way of doing that." Nathan cleared his throat. "I figured someone should say yes." Grace turned her head toward the ceiling. "And she picked you." She closed her eyes for a long moment, then opened them again. "Do you know how many times she's waited in that lobby for someone to walk by?" That hit harder than he expected. "She never asked me," Nathan said. "Why tonight?" Grace's voice turned wistful. Maybe she thought she was running out of chances. For a few moments neither of them spoke. The room was dim, but Nathan could make out the faded color of Grace's cheeks, the slight tremor in her hands. The disease, whatever it was, had already stolen so much, but it hadn't touched her dignity. "Lily said this was your last wish," he said finally. Grace smiled at the ceiling. "I wanted her to have one memory, just one, of what it feels like to be a little girl who belongs to someone." Her eyes shifted to him again. A child doesn't understand absence. They only feel it. Nathan sat down in the empty chair by the bed, his mind swimming. He didn't belong here. And yet, "She talks about daddies like they're storybook creatures," Grace continued. "Big, brave, magical. And she still believes in them, even after all this." "What happened to her real father?" he asked, instantly regretting the question. Grace didn't bristle. "He didn't want to be one." Nathan gave a subtle nod, unsure how to respond. "Don't worry," she added, reading him with ease. "She doesn't remember him. That's the only mercy he gave us." Nathan looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully despite the beeping machines, the sterile air, the sadness soaking the room. "She's tough. She's 6, Grace said softly. "She shouldn't have to be." The silence stretched between them again. Nathan tapped his thumb against his knee. "I didn't come here to play pretend," he said. "I know," Grace replied. "You came because she asked." Nathan met her gaze. "And you let me." Grace's smile returned. "Because she smiled when you said yes. That's more than I've seen in days." Nathan exhaled and leaned back. He was used to reading people, clients, rivals, investors. Grace was something different, transparent but not fragile, tired but not weak. "I don't want to confuse her," he said after a while. "You won't," Grace answered. "She knows exactly what this is. Still, she also knows you could have walked away, but you didn't." He watched as Grace brushed her fingers gently through Lily's hair. "You're not the first man she's asked," she said, "but you're the only one who didn't pretend not to hear." Nathan blinked. "How often does she?" "Not often. Just enough to break me a little more each time." He didn't know what to say to that. Grace coughed, dry, controlled. She waved off his concern before it formed. "I don't have much time left. Maybe a few weeks. Days if it's fast." The statement hung in the air like fog. "She doesn't know," Grace added. "Not completely." Nathan felt his stomach twist. He'd closed million-dollar deals, pulled the plug on entire divisions, but none of that prepared him for the rawness in this room. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, the question surprising even himself. Grace looked at him for a long time. "I don't want anything from you," she said. "Tonight was enough, but if she asks again, if you can stand it, just show up. It doesn't have to be forever." Nathan's jaw tensed. He nodded once, not a promise, just a recognition. Outside the room, the hallway lights flickered once. A nurse passed by without glancing in. Grace let out a breath. She made that drawing yesterday. Said she was going to find her daddy-in-waiting. She even picked out your tie from the picture in the lobby. He glanced at the drawing in Lily's hand, stick figures with oversized smiles. Not sure I deserve that much optimism, Nathan said. No one does, Grace replied. That's why it's a gift. Another silence. A softer one. Nathan stood slowly. I should go. Grace nodded, her hand brushing Lily's again. Thank you, Nathan. Really. He paused at the door. You were right, he said. I didn't know why I was here, but I think I'm starting to. As he reached the hallway, a small voice called out behind him. Wait! Lily, now wide awake, ran after him. She held out the drawing with both hands. For you, she said. So you don't forget us. Nathan took it carefully, the paper still damp at the edges. Thank you, Daddy, she added, her voice shy but certain. Something cracked in his chest. He nodded, too choked to speak, and turned before she could see the change in his face. As the elevator doors closed, Nathan stared down at the drawing again. The figures on the page were still smiling, still holding hands, still believing, and suddenly his penthouse felt further away than ever. Nathan's penthouse was dark when he returned, lights off, silence absolute. He didn't turn anything on, just walked in, loosened his tie, and stared at the city through the glass wall. He should have forgotten by now. Instead, he dropped his keys and found himself holding the drawing again. Stick figures, a pink bow, a crooked smile labeled Daddy. He placed it carefully on the kitchen island and left it there. In the study, he opened a wooden box from a top shelf. Inside, a plastic bracelet, a school photo, and a faded crayon drawing. To Nathan, from Maddie, best brother ever. His sister had been 6. He'd been 12. One hospital trip changed everything. The loss had calcified into silence, first at home, then everywhere else. It never left. He shut the box. Maybe that's why Lily got through, why Grace's quiet strength unnerved him. He hadn't planned to return, and yet the next morning, he made a call to St. Mercy's donor office. A sizable donation, anonymous, no publicity. By noon, he was back in the hospital parking lot, dressed down, a coffee in hand he didn't drink. He paused outside room 312, then knocked. Grace opened the door from her bed, thinner than before, but alert. You came back. He glanced toward Lily, seated on the floor coloring. Just checking in. Grace smiled faintly. Come in. Lily looked up, brightening. Daddy? Nathan froze. Grace raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I drew flamingos, Lily announced, holding up a pink heavy masterpiece. Nathan crouched beside her. They look accurate. Have you seen one? No. We should go. They're weird. I like weird. He smiled. Grace watched the interaction with a quiet intensity. She's been better since your visit, she said when Lily returned to her markers. You brought something in with you. Nathan looked at her. I didn't do anything. You stayed. That's more than most. He didn't answer, just sat in the chair again, unsure why he felt calmer here. She picked you, Grace murmured. Maybe because you looked like someone who wouldn't run. Nathan hesitated. I lost my sister, years ago. Grace nodded. You don't have to say more. They shared a long, weighted silence. When it was time to leave, Lily stood up and hugged him. He stiffened, then placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You'll come back, right? She asked. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. The hospital corridors were starting to feel familiar. Nathan no longer used the main entrance. He came in through the side now, nodding to the same nurse each morning, stopping by the gift shop for Lily's favorite snacks. Banana chips, strawberry milk. He told himself he was just being thorough, responsible. But he came every day. Grace's health was visibly slipping. Some mornings she couldn't speak above a whisper. Other times, her eyes stayed closed for hours. The doctors didn't explain much, and she didn't ask. Nathan found Lily curled beside her most days, head resting against the mattress, whispering stories only Grace could hear. When Grace was too weak to talk, Nathan sat nearby and read aloud. Fairy tales, picture books, even sections from the newspaper comics. Lily didn't fully understand, but laughed at anyway. You don't read like a dad, she commented once, chewing dried banana slices. No? You read like a boss, he smirked. I'll work on it. By the end of the week, Nathan had started picking Lily up from school. Her teacher, a sharp-eyed woman named Ms. Beach, raised an eyebrow the first time. Are you the guardian? I'm a family friend. Ms. Beach studied him for a beat too long, then let Lily go. In the car, Lily talked non-stop. I told Olivia my dad was rich. She said, prove it. So I said, do you have a chauffeur who smells like cologne and stress? Nathan nearly choked on his coffee. Grace smiled weakly when he relayed the story that evening. She's been waiting to say that to someone, she whispered. Lily didn't call him Daddy every time, only when she was excited, or scared, or tired. The first time she said it without thinking, he froze. They were walking down the hallway toward the elevator. She reached up and took his hand. Daddy, look, the snack cart's back. She yanked him toward it before he could respond. He said nothing, but later that night the word echoed. The room was quiet except for the oxygen pump. Nathan sat beside Grace, his jacket draped over the chair, his sleeves rolled. She looked at him, really looked. She doesn't think this is pretend anymore, she said softly. He didn't answer. You keep showing up and I know why, but to her, this is real. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't plan this. Of course not, Grace said, but you're here. That's what she'll remember. Her voice trembled, not from weakness but something deeper. She's going to need someone, Nathan. Not a gesture, a presence. Someone who'll stay when I can't. He looked away, jaw tight. I'm not asking for promises, she added. I'm asking for honesty. If you can't, don't pretend anymore. He looked at her then. I don't know what I can be. Grace nodded slowly. Then figure it out fast, because I don't have much time left to help you. That night he didn't go home, he stayed. Not because Lily asked, not because Grace needed him, but because, for the first time in years, he couldn't walk away. The morning light in room 312 was dim, grey, the blinds drawn to keep the brightness from stinging Grace's eyes. Nathan sat beside her bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. Lily was at school, a new routine they'd all silently accepted. Grace reached for her water, but her fingers barely lifted the cup. Nathan stood and held it to her lips. Thanks, she whispered. He sat again, watching her chest rise and fall with uneven rhythm. You're tired, he said. I'm dying, she replied, not unkindly. He didn't flinch. You say it so easily. Grace smiled faintly. It's the truth. When you stop fighting it, it gets lighter. Nathan looked down at the floor. I don't know how to talk about this. You don't need to. Just listen. She adjusted herself slightly on the pillow. I've been thinking about Lily's future, about what comes next. She doesn't know what's really happening yet. Not fully. I know. Grace looked at him. I don't mean next week. Or who picks her up from school, I mean after. The hard part. Nathan's jaw tightened. She needs someone, Nathan. Someone who won't just show up for the good days. You said you didn't want promises. I still don't. Her voice softened. But I need to ask. The pause was sharp. Will you take care of her? When I'm gone? Nathan looked at her. Really looked. Her face, pale and drawn, still carried grace. Still demanded truth. I don't know if I can be enough, he said. She doesn't need perfect, just present. He swallowed. Yes. Grace closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek, not of sorrow, but release. Thank you, she said. You have no idea what you've just given me. That afternoon, Nathan signed Lily out of school early. When she saw him waiting at the gate, she sprinted into his arms. Are we going to the hospital? Not today. She blinked. Why not? Because today's for you. They started at the zoo, real flamingos this time. Lily screamed when they moved, convinced they were animatronic. She insisted on naming one of them Captain Pink Legs. Next came the aquarium. She pressed her hands to the glass, gasping at stingrays and sea turtles. Nathan bought cotton candy. They shared a hot pretzel on a bench by the water. She made him ride the carousel twice. He'd never laughed that hard around anyone. At sunset, they stopped at a bookstore cafe. Lily picked out a graphic novel. Nathan let her have an extra cookie. She leaned her head on his arm as they waited for their drinks. Best day ever, she murmured, cookie crumbs on her cheeks. Something unfamiliar swelled in his chest. Heavy, but full. Back at the hospital, Lily was asleep before the elevator reached Grace's floor. Nathan carried her in. Grace stirred when they entered, her eyes fluttering open. She smiled in her sleep, she whispered. She rode a flamingo carousel. Grace chuckled weakly. That sounds made up. Most good things do. He set Lily gently on the fold-out chair and tucked a blanket around her, then turned to leave. But Grace held out her hand. Stay a minute. He did. She reached toward the nightstand, pulling a notebook from the drawer. I started writing something, she said. For her, when I'm not here to answer the big questions or the small ones. Nathan watched as her fingers traced the edge of the cover. I want her to remember my voice, even when I'm quiet. He nodded, unsure what to say. Grace looked up at him. You'll make sure she gets this, won't you? His voice was steady. I will. The hospital room was still. There were no machines now, no beeping, no nurses checking vitals. Just Grace, peaceful, eyes closed, hands folded over her chest. She looked younger somehow, lighter, like something had finally let go. Nathan stood at the foot of the bed, Lily at his side. She clutched his hand tightly, saying nothing. She's sleeping, right? Lily whispered. He didn't lie. Not this time. Lily looked up at him, eyes full, then turned back to her mother. Okay, she said softly. Okay. The funeral was small. No hymns, no long speeches. Just a closed white casket, a few pale lilies, and silence. Grace hadn't wanted ceremony, only a simple goodbye. Lily held Nathan's hand the whole time, her pink backpack sitting beside her on the pew. After the service, they stood alone by the grave. Lily pulled a piece of folded paper from her coat pocket. The drawing, the original one, the one with the stick figures and the crooked smiles. She tucked it into the bouquet on top of the casket. Nathan gently rested his hand on her shoulder. She said I picked the right one, Lily whispered. She was right, Nathan replied, voice low. That afternoon, Nathan filed the paperwork. He'd already spoken with the attorney Grace had introduced him to during her last week. The process had been set in motion, guardianship, then adoption. Lily Campbell. It still felt surreal. At the courthouse, Lily swung her legs while they waited, humming a tune Nathan didn't recognize. She said you'd say yes, she told him. He glanced over. I did. She smiled. That's why I picked you. The penthouse felt colder than ever when they walked in. The silence was too perfect, the walls too white. Lily stood in the entryway and looked around like she was stepping into a museum. This is where you live? He nodded. It's home. She tilted her head. It doesn't smell like home. Nathan raised an eyebrow. What's it supposed to smell like? Cookies, books, pillows. He glanced around at the spotless space, the sterile glass and metal, the untouched furniture. I guess we'll have to fix that. Later that evening, Lily unpacked her small suitcase. A few dresses, 2 stuffed animals, and a bundle of crumpled drawings. She pulled one out and handed it to Nathan. Hang this one? He looked at it. Another stick figure scene. This one showed 3 people, Grace, Lily, and Nathan holding hands beneath a blue sky. The sun had a smiley face. The caption read, in block letters, Our Family. He cleared his throat. Where do you want it? Where you can see it, she said. All the time. He hung it in the hallway right beside the thermostat. When he stepped back, she nodded in approval. Now it feels more like us. He smiled, then picked up her backpack. Let's find a place for this. Lily followed, her footsteps soft on the marble floor. She paused beside the living room window. It's really high up, she said, peering out. 20th floor. Looks like we're on a cloud. He stood beside her, both of them watching the city flicker below. It's a good place to start, she said. Nathan looked at her. Start what? Our news story. He didn't answer, just nodded. The letter arrived by courier. Thick paper, ornate letterhead. Nathan unfolded it slowly, eyes narrowing as he read. Notice of custody challenge. Petition filed. Harold and Ellen Whitmore, Grace's parents. He hadn't seen them at the funeral, hadn't heard their names once in the weeks before or after her death. Now, they were demanding custody of Lily. I don't know them, Lily said softly, curled on the sofa beside him. Mommy said they didn't like kids, not even her. Nathan tried to keep his expression neutral. Did she ever say why? She said they were tired of pretending to love people they didn't understand. He closed the file and set it aside. You don't have to worry. I'm handling it. Lily nodded, but her small hand tightened around the stuffed cat in her lap. The story broke 2 days later. Billionaire CEO takes in dying woman's child, or is it something more? The article, plastered across the homepage of a tabloid site, was sharp-edged and speculative. Accusations dressed as questions. Manipulation, influence, power imbalance. A photo of Nathan entering the courthouse. A blurred shot of Lily holding his hand. The next headline was worse. She was dying. He saw an opportunity. Grace Whitmore's parents speak out. Nathan tossed the tablet aside. Phone calls poured in. Reporters loitered near the building. Camera flashes popped outside the penthouse lobby. Nathan's PR team advised silence, but silence did little to stop the headlines. Worse than the noise was Lily's growing fear. "Why are they saying those things?" she asked one night, hiding under a blanket. "Why do they think you're bad?" He sat beside her, heart heavy. "Because they don't know the truth. But Mommy did." "Yes," he said quietly. She knew. The first court appearance was brief but brutal. The Whitmores arrived with a polished legal team and a binder of carefully constructed claims. Financial coercion, emotional instability, a child placed with a non-relative by verbal agreement only. Nathan stood alone. The judge issued a temporary hold on the adoption process pending a full review. Lily stayed with him. For now, the penthouse, once warmer, grew tense, quiet. Nathan tried to keep their routines steady, school, dinner, reading before bed, but he saw the difference in Lily's drawings. Less color, more gray. One afternoon, he found her staring at the hallway picture, the one she'd drawn of the three of them. "You're not going to stop being my daddy, right?" she asked. He knelt beside her. "Never. Even if they say I have to go?" He hesitated. "Even then I'll fight." She hugged him hard, arms around his neck, and didn't let go. The knock came at exactly 9 in the morning, sharp, punctual. Nathan adjusted the cuffs of his shirt before opening the door. "Miss Devereux," she said, flashing her ID. "Social services, may I come in?" Nathan stepped aside. "Please." She was in her late 40s, efficient but unreadable. Dark blazer, no nonsense. Her eyes scanned the penthouse like a security sweep. "I'll need to assess the environment," she said. "Living arrangements, safety standards, school integration, emotional stability, all part of the preliminary evaluation." Nathan nodded. "Understood." Lily peeked around the corner, her stuffed cat dangling by its tail. The social worker crouched slightly. "And this must be Lily." Lily offered a shy wave, then ducked away. The interview lasted nearly 2 hours. Nathan answered questions about daily routines, meals, bedtime, discipline strategies. Ms. Devereux took notes quickly, her tone professional, cool. When she asked about his own upbringing, he kept it brief. After inspecting the kitchen, the study, and Lily's small bedroom, she stopped in the hallway where Lily's drawing hung. "You let her decorate?" she asked. She asked. I agreed. She gave a small nod, then turned back toward him. "I'll file my initial report within 72 hours, she said. "We'll schedule a follow-up visit shortly." At the door, she hesitated. "Mr. Campbell, parenting isn't a performance. You don't need to impress me. You need to show her you're here." Then she was gone. That night, Nathan triple-checked Lily's lunchbox and packed it himself. He set 2 alarms for school drop-off. He even labeled her backpack with his number and filled out every form the school had sent home. He wasn't going to mess this up, but he did. It happened on a Thursday. Nathan was in a boardroom surrounded by executives arguing over quarterly projections when his phone buzzed. He glanced once. Missed call. Ms. Beach, school. He silenced it. Then a second call and a text. "Where is Lily's parent?" "All students were picked up 30 minutes ago." His heart stopped. He tore out of the building without explanation. By the time he arrived, Lily was sitting alone in the main office, legs swinging, eyes dull. "I'm so sorry," he said, breathless. She didn't look at him. In the car, she stayed silent. Back at the penthouse, she went straight to her room. That night, he knocked gently on her door. "Lily?" No answer. He stepped inside. She was curled under the blanket, facing the wall. "I forgot. I shouldn't have, but I did." She didn't move. "I messed up." Still nothing. "I know this is hard. I know everything's changing." After a long pause, her voice came quiet and flat. "You'll leave too, won't you?" Nathan sat down slowly beside her bed. "No. That's what Mommy said about Grandpa, that he wouldn't leave. But he did." "I'm not him." She turned over. Her eyes were wet. "Then why does it feel like everybody leaves?" Nathan didn't have a polished answer. No speech, no quote. Only this. "I'll stay Even when it's hard, even when I forget things, I'll still be here." She stared at him, searching. "Promise?" "I promise." The next morning he woke early and made pancakes, burnt the first batch, tried again. He walked Lily to school instead of driving. That afternoon, they went to the park. He pushed her on the swing until she laughed. When they got home, she pointed to the kitchen wall. "Can we hang a drawing there too?" He smiled. "Anywhere you want." The courtroom was colder than Nathan expected. Not physically, but in its architecture, in the way eyes lingered too long on him, in the shallow scraping of pens on paper as his life, and Lily's, was quietly assessed by strangers. He sat beside his attorney at the petitioner's table, back straight, jaw tight. Across the aisle, Harold and Ellen Whitmore sat flanked by their legal team, expressions carefully composed. They wore dark suits, pearls, and the posture of grief, rebranded as righteousness. The judge, a silver-haired woman with unreadable eyes, entered. "All rise." Nathan had spent his career controlling rooms, boardrooms, auditoriums, ballrooms full of money and tension. But this was different. Here he wasn't the CEO. He wasn't in charge. Here he was just the man who said yes when a little girl asked a question no child should ever have to ask. The Whitmore's attorney was first to speak. She was polished, confident, and precise. "Your Honor, we do not dispute that Mr. Campbell acted kindly in the days leading up to Grace Whitmore's death. However, good intentions do not equate to fitness. There was no legal arrangement, no written guardianship, no blood connection. This child was placed in his care solely through verbal agreement." She paused. "And now, the child is in the custody of a billionaire with no parental experience who cannot be present for daily care due to the demands of his position. We are deeply concerned that her emotional well-being is being jeopardized." Nathan's attorney rose. "Your Honor, Mr. Campbell has provided stability, routine, and emotional support during a time of profound loss. The child was not taken. She chose to go to him. She identified him as the person she wanted to be with during her mother's final days. That bond was not manufactured. It was formed through presence, care, and mutual trust." The judge listened without expression. Witnesses came and went. Grace's nurse, the school principal, the social worker, Ms. Devereux. She gave a cautious but sincere report. "There were early concerns, but Mr. Campbell has demonstrated rapid adaptation. The child appears emotionally safe and attached." Still, the tension built. Nathan watched as the Whitmores leaned in, whispering to their lawyer after every new development. They had history, resources, a well-crafted narrative, and he had moments, memories, feelings, things courts didn't always recognize. Then, as the day drew toward its end, Nathan's lawyer leaned toward the judge. "We have one final witness, Your Honor. The child herself." The Whitmore's attorney stood. "Objection. She's 6 years old." The judge raised a hand. "This is a sensitive case. If the child is emotionally capable and the statement is voluntary, I will allow it." She looked at Nathan. "Is she willing?" He turned. Lily was sitting quietly with a court liaison, feet dangling, hands in her lap. She nodded once. The courtroom fell to a hush. Lily was helped up onto the small wooden chair at the witness stand. Her eyes darted across the room, but when they landed on Nathan, she straightened a little. The judge leaned forward. "Lily, do you understand why you're here?" Lily nodded. "Can you tell me, in your own words, how you came to live with Mr. Campbell?" Her voice was small, but steady. "Mommy was sick, really sick. She said her last wish was to see me with a daddy." She paused. "So I picked one." A rustle moved through the courtroom. "You picked him?" the judge asked gently. "Yes. I waited for someone who looked safe, who looked like he wouldn't go away." "Why did you choose Mr. Campbell?" Lily looked directly at Nathan. "Because when I asked him, he said yes." Her eyes misted. "And then he came back, every day, even after Mommy died. He made pancakes. He walked me to school. He didn't stop." The judge nodded slowly. "Is Mr. Campbell your father, Lily?" There was a long, deep breath. "He's my dad, because he chose me." Silence. Total. One of the jurors swallowed audibly. The judge glanced down at her notes, but her hands had stilled. Lily turned her head. "I don't want to go with people I don't know. I want to stay with the person who stayed with me." The judge thanked her and asked the liaison to escort her back to her seat. Nathan watched as Lily walked across the room and slid her small hand into his. He held it tight. The ruling came 20 minutes later. The judge didn't build to it. She didn't give a long lecture. She simply said, "This court finds that Nathan Campbell has demonstrated intent, capacity, and emotional fitness to continue as Lily Whitmore's legal guardian, with full custody awarded and the adoption process cleared to proceed." A gasp came from the Whitmore side, but Nathan barely heard it. He turned to Lily. She was already smiling. He pulled her into his arms and held her close, closer than he ever had. No words, just that. The paperwork was final. Stamps, signatures, a thick packet of documents declaring what Lily had known all along. Nathan Campbell was now her legal guardian. Official, irrevocable, real. She swung her legs on the courthouse bench, clinging to a celebratory balloon shaped like a star. Her smile was effortless. Nathan looked at her, a mix of awe and humility swelling in his chest. He'd built a corporate empire, but nothing had ever felt this permanent. Back at the penthouse, the space looked the same. Gleaming floors, sweeping skyline, but it no longer felt untouched. There were cereal bowls in the sink, a trail of stuffed animals leading from the hallway to the couch, crayon scribbles on sticky notes stuck to the fridge, and laughter. Lily laughed constantly now, big, unfiltered bursts that echoed through the once sterile rooms. Nathan had taken a leave of absence from work. The board was not pleased. "This is a critical quarter," his COO warned over the phone. "I'm aware," Nathan said. "And you're just stepping away?" "I'm raising my daughter." There was a long pause on the other end. Then, "We'll hold things down. For now." Nathan hung up, unfazed. On Tuesday, Lily tried to bake cookies. She insisted on doing it mostly by herself. The result? Flour everywhere, eggshells in the batter, and a batch of sugarless cookies that resembled saltine crackers. Nathan took one bite, winced and said, "Interesting texture." Lily narrowed her eyes. "You hate it." "It's creative," he offered. They both burst into laughter. She made a second batch, with sugar this time, and they sat on the kitchen floor, eating them warm off the tray. "This is what homes are supposed to smell like," she declared. Nathan nodded. "Cookies and chaos?" "Yep, the good kind." Their days found a rhythm. Mornings meant rushed breakfasts and mismatched socks. Afternoons brought school pickup, playground detours, and impromptu drawing contests. Evenings were for storybooks, silly voices, and singing off-key while brushing teeth. Lily had filled the whiteboard in the study with colorful lists, things we love, things we hate, and things we want to try. Nathan added one item, quietly in the corner, under things we love, us. One night, Lily sat cross-legged on the living room rug, coloring with fierce concentration. Nathan watched from the couch. She looked up. "Wanna help?" He joined her. They colored in silence for a while. Then she said, "Do you like being a dad?" He paused, then nodded. "I do." She smiled. "You're good at it, even if you burn toast." "Thanks for the feedback." They laughed again, real laughter, the kind that loosened something in both of them. For the first time, Nathan wasn't just playing the role. He was living it. The day began with streamers taped to the kitchen cabinets, a balloon that said, "I'm 7, bobbing above Lily's breakfast chair, and a cake shaped like a sunflower sitting on the counter, her specific request, down to the lemon frosting and candy petals. Nathan had never baked a cake before, but after 3 failed attempts and a late-night video tutorial, he made it happen. Lily twirled in her new dress, a swirl of yellow and white. "This is the best birthday ever," she announced before even opening a single gift. Nathan smiled, but his heart carried a quiet weight. There was one gift left, the most important one. Later that afternoon, when the candles had been blown out and her friends had gone home, he sat beside her on the couch with a small envelope in his hand. "This is from your mom," he said softly. Lily froze. "She wrote it for today, for when you turned 7. Her fingers trembled slightly as she took the envelope. "I saved it," he added, "like I promised." Lily looked down at the handwriting. Familiar, careful script that made her eyes water before she'd even read a word. "Can you read it with me?" she whispered. "Of course." She opened it slowly. "My Lily, happy 7th birthday, my love. If you're reading this, it means I'm not sitting beside you like I wish I could be, but I'm still with you, always. In every laugh, every hug, every brave step you take. There are things I wanted to tell you in person, things about love, about growing up, about the world. But mostly, I want you to remember who you are. You are kind, You are curious. You are stronger than most grown-ups, I know. You might wonder if it's okay to be happy even when I'm gone. I want you to be. I want you to dance, to sing loudly, to draw flamingos and eat cookies and run as fast as you can. Life is for living, not just remembering. If you're reading this with Nathan, give him a big hug for me. I chose him because I saw something in his eyes the first day we met, something lost but not broken. I knew he would protect you. I knew he would love you in his own way. I hope he does. I hope you let him. There will be other letters, but this one is just to say, you were the best thing I ever did. I love you. I always will. Love, Mom. The room was silent. Lily's eyes welled. Her lips trembled. Nathan didn't speak. He couldn't. She reached for him and he gathered her into his arms, her small frame pressed against his chest, her tears soaking into his shirt. He didn't try to stop his own. They cried together, not with desperation but with something softer, a release, a remembering. When the tears slowed, Lily leaned back and looked up at him. She knew we'd be okay, she whispered. Nathan nodded. She did. That night, Lily placed the letter in a small wooden box on her nightstand. She tucked a drawing inside with it, 3 smiling figures beneath a smiling sun. Then she kissed the lid. "Good night, Mommy," she said. And Nathan from the doorway whispered, "Good night, Grace," because her presence wasn't a ghost. It was a guide. The email came on a quiet Thursday morning, tucked between routine work updates and a grocery store promotion. Nathan almost deleted it until he saw the subject line, "Congratulations, Lily Campbell, National Youth Essay Finalist." He read it again, slower this time. Then he stood, walked down the hallway, and knocked on her bedroom door. "Lily?" She looked up from her desk, earbuds dangling. "What's up? You entered an essay contest?" Her eyes widened. "Oh, yeah, kinda forgot I sent it." He held up his phone. "You won." She blinked, then grinned. "Seriously?" Nathan nodded. "They want to publish it. National education site. There's a ceremony in D.C. Lily shot out of her chair and tackled him in a hug. 2 weeks later, Nathan sat in a large auditorium beneath a banner that read, "Voices of Tomorrow." Students from all over the country read from podiums, nervous and excited, while proud families clapped in the rows below. Lily stepped up to the microphone, composed, confident, 16 now, and impossibly self-possessed. She adjusted the mic. "My essay is called The Day That Changed Everything." Nathan leaned forward, listening. It didn't start like a big day. It wasn't a birthday or a holiday. It was gray, rainy. A Thursday, I think. But I remember it because that was the day I asked a stranger to pretend to be my dad. I was 6, my mum was sick. I wanted her to see me with someone who looked like he wouldn't leave. So I waited in a lobby and asked the man in the expensive suit with the sad eyes. And he said yes. He didn't know it then, but that yes wasn't just for a moment. It was the start of something real. He didn't become my dad because of paperwork. He became my dad because he stayed. He stayed through the hard parts, through grief, through cookies with no sugar, through missed school events and bedtime books. And somewhere in all of that, we became a family. People always ask me what changed my life. Some think it's losing my mom. Others think it's being adopted by a CEO, but it's neither. It was asking a question and hearing someone say yes. When Lily stepped down, the audience gave a standing ovation. Nathan sat still, hands clasped in his lap, blinking back something he rarely let fall. She found him outside afterward. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "I just realized something." "What?" "That day changed my life even more than it changed yours." She smiled. "Guess we both got lucky." That summer, they drove to the beach Grace once told Nathan about, a place she'd visited as a child, before everything got complicated. The sky was cloudless, the sea, warm and endless. Lily ran across the sand with her sneakers in hand, shrieking as the tide chased her heels. Nathan watched from a chair under a striped umbrella, toes buried in the sand. She waved. "Come on." He kicked off his shoes and followed. They stood at the edge of the world, water tugging at their ankles. "You ever think about that day?" Lily asked. Nathan looked out at the horizon. "Every day." She nudged his arm. "Do you regret saying yes?" He shook his head. "Not once." They laughed in the sunlight, hair tangled by wind, footsteps overlapping in the sand. There was no perfect ending, just this moment, and the next, and the next. One chosen day that became a lifetime. What did you think of this unforgettable story? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're listening. If it moved you, leave a like and hit subscribe to support more stories like this. Until next time.